What's up, everybody? This is Matt Brown with part 5 of our Enterprise IoT Pentesting series. Today, we are taking a deep dive on network services, and specifically, we are going to look at our UniView camera, look at its web interface for any vulnerabilities, maybe some custom camera stuff, just do some network enumeration. And so, without further ado, let's get into it. So, like I said, my name is Matt Brown. I am an IoT pen tester. I'm also a bug bounty hunter, and so I love finding vulnerabilities in IoT devices. And network services are one of the areas where you can often find the highest impact vulnerabilities, right? Some of the hardware stuff, yeah, that does matter. Of course, it's important in an enterprise setting, especially, but those attacks often require physical access, where network services can be accessed potentially over the local network and sometimes over a wide area network if certain conditions are met. So this is where we want to hunt for a lot of high impact vulnerabilities. And so we're going to keep it short and sweet with our slides today, because a lot could be said about a bunch of different services out there, but each may not be found on any given IoT device. So we're going to talk about it at a high level, though. The first thing we want to do is we want to scan or enumerate what services are running on the device. Now, in a typical network penetration test, that is often going to be a very black box operation where the red teamers, the pen testers, are not given any kind of internal access, no documentation, anything like that. But one of the things I always like to tell people is that, of course, we're going to use all these tools that we can see here, that the same tool sets that the red teamers and the network pen testers are using, we're going to use those as well. But we actually have an advantage, because our pen test is oftentimes not completely a black box if we have a shell on the device, which we have on our case study target. If you haven't seen those videos, definitely go back and watch the hardware enumeration video, where we escalate an unlocked bootloader to being able to escalate out of a jailed shell environment to a full root shell. When you have a root shell on your pen test target, a lot of options open up, including being able to enumerate all the services that are running on the device. And we're going to see in our case study the differences, the delta between what these network scanning tools can show you and what we can see when we have root access to the device. And so, of course, that being set aside, we are going to use tools like Nmap or Nabu, which is a little bit faster port scanner that's out there by, I believe that's Project Discovery. We're going to use vulnerability scanning tools like Nuclei. There's other commercial options out there as well. And then we're going to, for HTTP, your classic, kind of proxy tools like Kaido or Burp Suite are going to come in handy. So once we have kind of ascertained all of the services and protocols that are being used on the IoT device, we're going to want to attack specific protocols on the device. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of standard stuff, right? Because especially in enterprise IoT, sometimes a lot of the services look just like your traditional IT services that you're going to find on hosts in a network pen test or a red team engagement. And so there's going to be web, there's going to be, DNS servers, there's going to be remote access tools like, SSH. You're probably going to find more telnet on IoT devices than you are on traditional IT devices. File transfer protocols, SCP, and specifically in the video world, like we have with our target, we're often going to find RTSP is going to be the protocol of choice. It's just kind of a standard. There are other options out there, but for video streaming, RTSP is the go-to. And then you're going to see some IoT-specific protocols. You're going to see MQTT, CoAP. There's a bunch of other protocols out there that are meant to be lightweight, that are meant for kind of distributed IoT systems out there in the field. And then what you're going to find, and this is what I love to find in a good IoT device, is a custom protocol that was designed by the developers and is not used anywhere else. There's no documentation. It's just a custom protocol being shoved over TCP or UDP, and those are so fun to reverse engineer because oftentimes just the act of reverse engineering it instantly reveals vulnerabilities in the services. So that is a really high level look at the activities that and the kind of things I would look for in an IoT pen test. But let's actually go ahead and take a look at what I would do hands on keyboard if I were given a device like this to do a pen test on. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to our shell environment. So again, from the past video, we're not gonna go into in this video of how we obtained the root shell on our target, but we do have a root shell on our target. And so obviously we can see here that the the ETH0 interface there is running, and the target IP of our system, the IP address of our system, is 192.168.100.26. So that .26 host is what we're going to target. So we're going to come over here to our PC shell, and the first thing we're going to do is just run a trusty nmap scan. Now, it is important to note that by default, and we should probably see this right here in the output, we are going to see when we run that nmap scan, it found two services. It found port 80 and port 554. So port 80, again, it's telling us here it's an HTTP server. By the way, when you just run nmap as we've run it right here, it's not actually certain that that is HTTP. If we were to add the -SV flag like this, then maybe I'm not going to scan everything with that because it takes a while. But if we were to do that, we might get back more information. We might not. We'll see. But that SV is going to kind of fingerprint the service a little bit and try to grab any banners that it gets back from the services to have a more accurate service description here. But again, probably going to be web here on port 80, and 554 is that RTSP server. Again, video camera, video streaming. That all makes sense. And this is really funny. I don't know why it's decided to stop responding, and we're not going to let it finish. So there's our nmap scan, and we can see that, okay, so it says there's two services running. But again, like we talked about in our slides, we do not have to conduct this like a completely black box assessment. We have a shell on the device, and we can run commands, and we can't run clear, by the way, like netstat, and we can say, give us all of the services that are listening that are TCP. That's what this T flag here is going to be. And I think we can even put P in here. Okay, this is doing a really weird line wrap thing, so sorry people with small screens. We're going to make text a little smaller today. So we can see that all of these services are being run by one binary called mware server. So that, if I were going to do a deep dive reverse engineering this service, that is the binary I would want to go find on the system. That's going to be out of the scope of this video, but if I were going to target that, that's not what I want to do. I would do, where is mware server? Of course it doesn't exist because the path and a whole bunch of other weird stuff is not set up. Okay. Either way, I would obviously search the file system. We already dumped the firmware in the last video. That's the binary I would search for if I were going to reverse engineer any of these services. But we can see that as our nmap scan showed us, it is listening on port 80 and port 554. But those are the TCP services, which of course is the default of what nmap looks for. But we can also look at UDP services on our device. And so here we can see that we have, port 68. If you're familiar, that's like DHCP. So it's a DHCP client. Nothing crazy there. But we see that same mware server running on UDP port 37 02. And if I just go ahead in my web browser and I go to this Wikipedia page, with a little Googling, you can find out that that UDP port is commonly associated with the WS discovery protocol. And so this is oftentimes like a multicast protocol that allows you to enumerate on a network if there are any devices that have services that you could potentially connect to and access. And on VIF, the kind of standardized protocol, standardized implementation for video surveillance devices like this UniView camera, use this protocol to enable a client to discover many cameras on a network that that client could connect to. So we are going to run a little script that I have here that is going to run a probe using this WS discovery protocol. It's a whole bunch of, it's an XML-based protocol, which is just the worst language ever. We really should be using JSON for everything now, but I'm not king of the universe. So we are, so here we go. We've got our big, ugly XML message here that we're going to send. And we are going to send it like unicast. We are going to send it directly to the target, but we could theoretically broadcast it across our entire subnet as well. So we've just got our hard-coded IP address here of our camera and that port. And then a whole bunch of other stuff that we're not going to get into, but we are going to open up a socket, send our message over, and then we're going to get a response back. Or we're going to print out any response that does come back. So when we run that script, we get a big old response here. And again, it's ugly, it's XML. It's telling us that we are using OnVIF. And there is a ton of device information that it is offering up in this protocol that can help us in the future. So just a couple things here. We have this register ID. I believe that's not it. Okay, so right here is the exact firmware version that this device is running. Again, it's offering this all up before authentication. It's offering up this information. We have the device serial number, and we have the MAC address. Now, in this scenario, having the MAC address is not really a big deal because I, as the attacker, am on the same local network as this device. But if this was port forwarded, say, from a different network, or is routable from a different network, you would not have its MAC address. And now you do have its MAC address. So maybe that matters. And then we have the hardware model, the device model of our device here. And, some other, we have it again. Basically, the name of the device is the model. So we get all of this information from this WS discovery protocol, which is kind of cool. So the one other thing we're going to do is we're going to just take a preliminary look at the web interface and how I, as a web pen tester, would go about pen testing this device. Because again, similar to web pen testing, where it's usually black box, the situation is different. We have access to the binary that's running the web server / web application. It's kind of all smashed into one. It's not separated. And we have access to the web root. So let's go ahead and fire up Kaido here. So I have the device's GUI web page here pulled up, and we'll just refresh that. And we can actually see all of the traffic here in Kaido. So obviously, we're not gonna do a deep dive here because this is just like in some sense it is just a web app, but I'm interested in what I can leverage on with the device access that I have. And so, I mean, obviously we can log in here, go to the setup page, and we can, find all these endpoints here. One of the things I did, again, without success, is I would find, things. All right, let's like have it go to this page that has a bunch of system information. Oh, it scrolls up. I keep forgetting that. So it logged me out. Okay, here's something interesting that will kind of transition us into the last little fun little information disclosure bit that I'm going to discuss. So we do see this file here, which is interesting. Slash device underscore cap.xml. It has a bunch of device capabilities stored here, and the fun thing about this is that we can request this file without any authentication, which is actually normal on this device. I don't think this is a vulnerability, but this is something that we can look for here on our device. So if I go to the root directory and, okay, so we already see a folder here called www, and we can see that it's symlink over to that program partition, which we kind of saw before when we were poking around with the firmware. So here we have the web root, right? It's pretty obviously the web root, but something that's interesting is there's a bunch of files here that are potentially configuration files, right? Now, is there anything sensitive in this configuration file? No, not really. But you probably shouldn't be serving up these configuration files just like this, like from the web. But you can, right? So if we wanted to figure out which of these files can we access, so obviously here I've got a dump of all these files that could be interesting for us to access, and so I have a little script here called webscan that is just going to take each one of those files and it's going to try to run curl, and it's going to print out if it got a 200 response code back saying that it was able to grab the file, and we can see that all of these files are accessible. Again, is there anything super sensitive in any of these files? No. Potentially, I think you could claim that giving away that the document root is /www/, it's technically like a path, kind of like a path disclosure thing, but again, probably not the biggest deal in the world. But these are the types of things that we look for on engagements, and again, we would also be doing a deep dive on that VMware server binary that is going to have a lot of interesting implementation details, obviously. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't watched the previous videos, definitely go back. This should by now be a YouTube playlist, and look out for the next ones coming up. Thank you. Have a good day.